Hello patrons and welcome to the Patron Show January 2018. I'm always reminded of the fact that the Transformers movie on the back of the box says the year is 2005 and here we are in 2018. 2 years away from 2020 if we even get that far. It's freezing here. It's really cold on the East Coast. Nobody warned, literally everyone warned me, but here we are. It's 24 degrees, which if in Europe is -4 degrees centigrade, which is very cold. It snowed 5 days ago and the snow is still on the ground, even though it's been sunny. It might be cold out there, but it's warm in here, eh, Esteban? That's why he's shaking his head. That's why we're both wearing jumpers. We're hard at work though, building PCs as it turns out. We got sent a bunch of stuff from MSI, your good friends in MicroStar International came all the way from Asia, a bunch of stuff through Patreon. They actually got in contact with us and said they had this thing where they were sending out 4K editing rigs to people who do 4K editing. And I was like, hey, we don't do that yet, but sure, send us a bunch of stuff. So we just, as part of our sort of videos about building the studio out, we just did the first one, which was a PC build. And spoilers, but it did post. So that's good, just about, because it took Esteban and me like a good 20 minutes of troubleshooting to get the RAM DIMMs in the right spots, but finally it actually did come to life. So honestly, there's not all that much has happened since the last time we did one of these videos, because the last time Esteban went off, edited that, and I basically went on to Horizon, which got finished the day before I left to go home to Ireland, and went up the day I went. So it was pretty close in the end. Really happy with how it turned out. We didn't have a trailer for it, which was the only bummer in terms of the sort of the turnaround. So the Horizon project effectively ended a 6-week period where I was editing non-stop, where we had the Grand Theft Auto Hillbilly Agenda doc, Horizon at the end, and the other one was the Player Unknown profile. So it was pretty hot and heavy. But in that time, I've been offsetting a lot of the editing duties. So a lot of what you're going to get in January is stuff that's been cut either by Esteban or by Jeremy. So I've said before, we have the at least two GDC session, no clip sessions going up this month. I mean, like, they're actually on YouTube now. I just have to make thumbnails for them. So there actually probably will be one up before this even goes up. So check that out. The first one will be Harvey Smith talking about Deus Ex and his legacy. The second one is Ricardo Bear and Rafael Colantonio from Arcane, or Rafael previously of Arcane. He's now taking a sabbatical from the games industry, talking about Prey. We're also working on one about the game Anamorphine, and we're also working on another one about accessibility. I want to get all 4 of those out this month. The other 2 will be out in the next couple of days. If you're on early access for patrons, you'll get those probably like a couple of days before everyone else does as well.
If you're trying to create an experience that people are going to be immersed in, it's got to talk to them very, very closely without any filters and ambiguity. And so the more you can touch the primal motifs of a person, the more they're going to feel immersed in the experience. And in this case, being trapped somewhere where you have to survive and escape is like probably the thing that everybody connects to.
Right.
And so that as far as a theme, right? And then we have the theme on top of that also connect very well with people, which is, if you were to wake up somewhere and you don't really know what happened, you want to know what happened. Like, why am I doing here? You know, all this mystery. So it's all very personal at the end of the day. Survive and find out about yourself. So things that are very, very personal, as opposed to go and save the world, or which is a little more indirect and far-fetched.
Yeah. And the thing that I like that we're doing that's a little bit different than Dishonored is the fact that it's all just one big but self-contained environment.
Right.
It's not a mission-based game where you like, I explore this mission, I accomplish my objective, and then I leave and I go on to this new place. Instead, it's like the space station itself is just this one big, we called it a space dungeon at one point, basically. That presents interesting challenge, but you get this like familiarity with the space, you know, because you backtrack a lot and you discover new areas, and then you come back to a place that you've been to 3 times already, but now there's somebody new or something new there. I think the game that we've made like really lends itself well to, okay, this time I'm going to play and I'm not going to use the glue gun. I'm going to just go all out alien powers, or this time I'm going to save this guy that I fed to the aliens the first time. So
they'll be going up like very soon. They might already be up. And then aside from that, we've got a bunch of extended cut stuff that I need to get out. John Gonzalez from the Horizon doc is an amazing, super spoilery conversation about Horizon. There's loads of his stuff that we didn't get in. Him and one or two other of the folks we talked at Horizon, perhaps the audio engineer, perhaps one of the concept artists, I haven't figured out exactly who. Those extended interviews will be going up as well, again, pretty soon. Over the next 2 weeks, there's going to be like just shed loads of videos landing. We've also had some shouts for extended cuts of the Witcher stuff, so we'll see. I might make that. But the other big one that's coming, which is almost edited, I just had some technical problems, is the behind the scenes for Witcher and GTA, which is now 3 months old. So that's going to be going up as well this month at some stage. But the biggest things that are happening at the moment is planning for 2018. And the reason why lots of stuff is going up this month that we've done legacy-wise is because a lot of that stuff I can't talk about now because we're basically in discussions with a couple of people about what we're going to be doing for 2018. 2017 was a really cool year. We made a lot. I think the quality stayed, maybe it went up slightly as we went, but it was still pretty consistent. Like I go back and watch The Witcher 1 and I'm like, that's pretty good. And then I go back and watch Final Fantasy and I'm like, yeah, that was like strong. That was all right. Subtitles were a bit messy, but we're okay. And then I watched like the PlayerUnknown one, and I'm like, this stuff's a little bit more rushed, maybe. I don't know. Horizon, I was happy with the way we ended with a really long video. It was the longest video No Clip has ever done. It was, I think, 59 minutes all in. So the longest single video by quite a stretch, by like almost 20 minutes. So I was really happy that was well produced. But I do feel like we were working on too much stuff, or I was editing too much stuff and too much stuff too quickly. So we made 22 videos last year, and something like 10 different projects, maybe 11 actually, if you count the sessions as their own thing. So that was quite a lot. And it's great that we did that, but I've got plans for next year is to create more of the sort of editorial stuff I was doing before as the churny stuff, and then to work on bigger projects and slightly less of them. So we're in talks about some pretty big projects, and I can't really talk about what they are yet, or we don't even know if they're going to work out, and there's a couple of other ones we're fishing for that we're trying to get. And then we have this other idea, which I'll get into in the questions, I think, about taking on a really big project that sort of lasts throughout the year. So instead of it just being like, this is what we're doing next, this is what we're doing next, this kind of like constant like hurdle exercise, we're gonna like sort of say, yo, we're gonna make this one and it's gonna be really big and we're gonna spend 12 months or 10 months or whatever trying to put it together. And we don't know how it's gonna work out, but we're gonna try, and then you sort of keep you involved in that process throughout the year. So I have a pretty good idea of what I wanna do for that, but we're putting out feelers and trying to figure it out. But January is very much or at least the next 2 weeks of January are very much let's get stuff signed off and then get it working. So my throat hurts from all the cat hair, but that doesn't mean we haven't got time for some questions. Let's do it. First question comes from Mr. Anderson, Kyle Anderson. Danny, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Kyle. Happy New Year to everyone. How you doing? Chinese New Year? That's not yet. No. If you're Chinese, don't listen to what I just said about Happy New Year. You'll get yours in like 3 months' time, something like that, something March. Yeah, I think so. It's always close to Paddy's Day, always in my head. What's your goal for big projects in 2018? Like your documentaries for Final Fantasy 14, Doom, etc. Compared to your one video pieces such as developer profiles. Have any magic numbers for either with your new bandwidth? So I like doing the big game docs. It's sort of our bread and butter. Doom was the biggest video we did last year. It's still our biggest video. Final Fantasy 14 was definitely our biggest series of last year's, of 2017 rather, so 2016 for Doom. So the big games are our bread and butter. Horizon was an interesting project this is a pretty big game, but let's like condense it down into one thing, because what we did with The Witcher was like, here's a big game, here's like, it was originally 7, but here's 6 videos. Here's 3 hours worth of documentaries about a single game. So I feel like the last year was very much like trying to find our form. The interesting thing about the Doom one is you go back and watch the Doom docs, those are all like 20 minutes long. They're super, super snappy. So one of the things we've definitely lost, I feel, in terms of mass appeal is by making these long-form documentaries that we've sort of ostracized a certain group of people or made them less shareable or whatever. And I make this stuff to make good art. I don't necessarily care about that. Like I like seeing the fact that our Horizon video has done like 200,000 views for like a 69-minute video. That's not bad. But that's not why we make the stuff either. But it is still like a thing where I want to make this sort of stuff more accessible and more part of the conversation of games. So in terms of next year, that's very much like a big part of the plan is to make stuff that's more like that Doom doc, that are a little bit punchier, and then creating ways to get people access to the videos behind the aside from the trailers. So like making more social videos, shorter ones, making almost like TLDR versions of the documentaries where they're a little bit more VO heavy and are less about the sort of moment to moment, and then using those as gateway drugs for the main docs too. And a lot of this goes into the biggest question above all this, the question I've had more for myself than anything last year, which was how the hell do we reconcile this sort of long form content with more community editorial no-clip content that sits alongside of it. Red Letter Media is this channel that I've been watching a lot recently, who was famous for the Mr. Plinkett Star Wars videos, but somehow managed to sort of integrate other programming like Half in the Bag and their editorial stuff, which is effectively, this is all stuff about movies, which at first there was a little bit of rub up against, but it's actually proved to be quite popular. And I'm trying to do that without the initial rub up, because I feel like we can create, not that I want to be like a mouthpiece, but I want to create a platform where it's not just about the docs. We have a really fucking great foundation of documentaries there for people to watch now. There's like so much stuff. Most of you haven't watched all of it probably. So now it's about sort of expanding that. And maybe that means, like I was saying earlier, making longer projects which are really cool that we can, you know, maybe get up on Amazon as well, or maybe, you know, just have like bigger releases and premieres about, bigger sort of tent poles, higher tents as it were. But then having a really good base of still high quality, but not necessarily that. The sessions were kind of that, but they've become a little bit commonplace and they're a bit repeatable in a way that I don't like. So I'm trying to figure that out. But in terms of specific projects, we're aiming higher than we've ever aimed before. So the projects that we're aiming for are as big as we can go, basically, at this stage. Except maybe we're not, Metal Gear Solid's the only one that's like, yo, we gotta let that simmer for a couple of years before we can go anywhere near it. But aside from that, we're essentially aiming as high as we can go. So can't say anything now. Cross your fingers for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and hopefully by the end of January we'll have some big ones hooked up for 2018. Matthew Sims asked the questions. Would there be any chance or interest in doing any Red Dead themed content to coincide with the launch of RDR2 later this June? Would be great for possible channel growth as hype grows. Thanks again. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Matthew. Matthew Sims. Yeah, I love Red Dead. I love Rockstar games. I love GTA. I would love nothing more than to do a documentary about any of their games. Hell, I'd take table tennis. That game was all right. Red Dead is made by Rockstar San Diego, so that's in North America. The GTA stuff is done in Scotland by Rockstar North. I'd love to, and you know, the GTA Hillbilly Agenda video, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't, like, there was a reason why we did that. It was a really good story, first of all, but also I wanted to dip my toe into that Rockstar world and say, like, look, here's us telling an interesting story about an aspect of your game. Ultimately, like, it's one of these studios that has their guard up for the media in kind of an understandable way. I mean, it was the BBC made a Hauser Brothers documentary starring Harry Potter. So it's like, I'm so sorry, Daniel Radcliffe, that's so mean. You know, they don't necessarily talk to the press except when they want their Game Informer cover every couple of years. So that would 100% be something I'd love to do. I mean, we'll have to wait and see if that Hillbilly video made the right people smile, I guess. Yeah, for sure, I'd love to do that. Red Dead Redemption is one of my favorite games of the last generation. It's one of the best, like, anyone's list, it has to be like, anyone's, but like a lot of people's list has to be like top 5, top 10 games of the last generation. And the second one looks amazing. And what I want to know is how do they make those open worlds? Like, how do they design them? How do they craft them? How do they technically make games that big? Like, how are they the ones pushing open world design forward every couple of years? So I'd love to do it. So Yes, I'm on the same page as you there, Mr. Sims. Ashley Robson asks, would you ever consider doing docs on other fields that are related to games, e.g. history of machinima or games media companies like Rooster Teeth or IGN? Thanks, and keep up the good work. This is something myself and Esteban were actually talking about earlier on today. It comes up a lot, especially this year with Giant Bomb turning 10 years old. It's a really difficult one. I still feel like it's a little bit like wanky of me, or like it seems weird to do a documentary about is what effectively is like my job, my day-to-day, and basically invite a bunch of my buddies on to have what are effectively going to be like softball interviews, right? So it seems strange. I'd love to do something on, like, I don't know what the hook is. There's something. Like, a lot of these companies have very interesting stories, but it's hard to tell them without them being like just really aggrandizing. And you could say the same way with the games, but at least in the games, we dive into into the hows a lot. And the hows of the games media are, it's a certain amount of it is about reading tea leaves and being on the right side of the sort of trends before they happen. But a lot of them is just like you were lucky. Like the YouTubers of the world, a lot of them were just kind of lucky. Not like a luck played like a large part in them being the ones that took off. And the same with sites. Like, I feel like there are some exceptions. Like, I feel like Rooster Teeth did a really great job of creating like a suite of content that sort of made that all work, and getting in the machinima stuff with Red versus Blue. And I feel like Giant Bomb understood the personalities thing as well, but they didn't like craft the personalities. They were personalities, so it just kind of happened. So it's hard to find what the hook is in those stories and explain the how. I'm sure there's a way of doing it, and I'd love to do it. And believe me, it'd be like a really easy, fun project to work on, because I just go hang out with my mates and interview them. But I don't want to work on anything that I don't think is worthwhile. I don't want to work on something because that's not going to be worthwhile, because if it's not, then we've sacrificed something that is worthwhile for it. So I totally would love to do something like that. I'm thinking about it a lot. I know Esteban separately was thinking about doing something on that before. So it's in the brain, in there somewhere, but haven't figured out exactly how to do it quite yet. If you think you know, please put it in the comments below. Arcada asked the question, hey Danny, will we ever see Return of the Point or something similar? I feel like I get this question every month. Also, plans to do documentaries on issues in games, loot boxes, early access, etc. That's kind of one and the same. I thought about taking time to do a loot box documentary this year, and I'm still not against doing it, but it seemed so negative. I don't know, it seemed like I think we all understand that loot boxes are shitty, and I was trying to think about how it would look. Like, how it would look would be going to like a government body and like, how are they going to tackle it? How's regulation going to tackle it? That story's kind of happening in Europe at the moment. Not yet. American politics has got a lot of shit going on right now, so I don't think it's necessarily taking like precedent. So I was trying to think, like, if we didn't have that angle, what the story of loot boxes would be, and it would be going around interviewing a bunch of people going, yo, loot boxes suck. They suck balls. And then it would be maybe interviewing some people going, but they're not that bad, and they help us make games, and games are expensive. How expensive are games? We can't tell you. So I don't know exactly how to do it. So I'm not against doing it at all. But I do think in terms of op-ed stuff, I would love to talk about that stuff more. I mean, one of my most tweeted videos recently of the point was the Destiny one we did like 2 years ago. So 100% there will be an episode of The Thing, whatever it's called, whether it's Danny's Disc Club or whatever, in the next couple of weeks. The big question again is whether it goes up on NoClip or it goes up on another channel. So that stuff is like priority one of what I'm working on this week. So yes, there will definitely be one. I've already half written an episode. I did it when I was back home in Ireland, about a bunch of sort of milsimi stuff with PUBG that was spinning around my head. And my goal for this year is to make at least one of those every single month, to have it that regular. Where it goes, though, is the thing. So I've gone to and fro about putting them on a NoClip or under a different brand, or making a separate NoClip channel, the way Rooster Teeth does with a lot of their stuff, or putting it on my own YouTube channel, but I don't like necessarily doing that anymore, because, I don't know, I just like everything being under NoClip now. So yes, there definitely will. I might talk about loot boxes in it. Watch this space. Colby Curtis asks our penultimate question. Hey Danny, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Colby. Everyone said Happy New Year, except Arcada. What's your problem? Maybe you're Chinese and it's not near. What are some goals you want to reach this year? Larger stuff, more behind the scenes, smaller shows. Also, what happened to Designing Disc Club? Sorry, I answered quite a lot of these in the last question. But in terms of behind the scenes stuff, actually, I want to talk about, there's 2 things I want to do this year for patrons that I think I dropped the ball on. One, the patron hangouts. I was really bad at keeping them consistent, and a lot of that was, I think I talked about in the last show, which was about the problem I had where I tried to step away from working on the weekends, and effectively that was the best time to do hangouts, and then I couldn't figure out a time that worked for everyone. So there's going to be a post this week to all the hangout people saying, okay, how do we do hangouts? What day do we do hangouts? It's going to have to be a day of the week. What time works during the week? And then I'm on the East Coast as well, because I'm a little bit closer to Europe, so it might work out to do it in the afternoon or something like that. So that's the one thing I feel bad about. The other part I feel bad about is the behind the scenes stuff. Like what I said earlier with The Witcher and the Grand Theft Auto stuff still hasn't gone up yet. There's a timeline, it's like 20 minutes long, still sitting on my Premiere to be exported. So the way to fix that was effectively hiring Esteban to come in and shoot stuff, not just for the docs, but also help shoot a bunch of this stuff. It's like what we did today with building the PC, which is going to be edited and up, if not the end of this week, then early next week. So that's a big part of it, getting that stuff edited by someone else, getting it shot by somebody else as well. So the plan is, if everything works out, that when myself and Jeremy go shoot a lot of these docs, that Esteban's going to come along as well and provide help shooting the docs, but also help shooting the behind the scenes of the docs as well. So we'll have a lot more of that stuff. And also instead of like spitting them up, right now a lot of that stuff goes up as kind of like, in the same way these Q&As did, they kind of go up as like, I don't know, disposable videos. You're just going to go, there you go. They don't get the same TLC as everything else. And I don't want that to happen. The production that Esteban's been doing on these videos is great, and we're going to keep like making that stuff look fresh. And then the same with the behind the scenes stuff. Instead of it just being like a cache of random clips, actually like forming them into interesting videos. There's a lot of other stuff that's happening in relation to that, like updating our graphics, updating our logo a little bit. There's some sort of housekeeping stuff that's going to make the 2018 things look different. Once we've got all the sessions out, we have some like detritus from last year to get out. It's good stuff, but it's very much like the end, like the special features for 2017. And then when our first 2018 projects hit, with the op-ed stuff and the rest of the docs, all that stuff's we're gonna up the production value again. That's kind of my goal, at least for the first quarter of this year. And then the last question from our good friend, Tori Thompson. I know a few months back when you were still in SF at the time, you were mentioning cabin fever and mental health. Taking a hit from being so cut off from the world with all the planning and editing and business work you had to do. I want to know how you are doing. Feeling better? Did the move help or hurt your mental health? How's Danny O'Dwyer doing? Also, I'd love to have a Q&A with Jeremy again. So would I. He's literally thousands of miles away right now. Actually, he was in Boston for his birthday. His birthday is, a lot of you don't know this, Jeremy, the camera op for NoClip, who looks like Jesus, his birthday is December 25th. So he was up in Boston celebrating with his family. I think he went on a road trip with his partner. The two of them had a blast. So I don't know if he's back now. I think he is actually, because he sent me a new cut, so he must be back. But I'd love to do that as well. I think the next time we're going to be hooking up outside of a project is it's almost dead on that I'm going to San Francisco for GDC. And we might be filming something there as well. And may also be premiering a NoClip doc as well, or showing an old one. It hasn't been decided yet at GDC. So I'd love to do that. But in terms of the mental health question, I feel way better. I also stopped drinking. I haven't had a drink since late November, including home in Ireland for Christmas, which was actually fine. My friends and family were fine with it. I'm drinking bubbled water like a fucking crazy person though, because I'm also off the Diet Coke. So that's been good. The winters usually I take a hit in, but it's actually been nice here. In Ireland it like would go to midnight. The sun would set at like 4 p.m. and rise again at like 10 a.m. So I had that last week, but out here it's actually kind of fine. And yeah, aside from that, I actually started going to a therapist as well in December, so that helped a lot as well. And then just like having this workspace and having Esteban here and having like dedicated work time and having projects going out faster and sort of having work be here and then enjoying my family life upstairs has definitely helped a lot. I'm definitely not out of the woods yet. There was a little bit of tough times in December, but generally I feel a lot more on top of it, which is great. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the year. Getting a lot of, it's funny, I feel like one of the things I need to do more than anything else is like get a lot of jobs done. So like the past 2 days I was like getting some plumbing shit that needed to get fixed in the house I was doing, and putting posters on the walls and doing all that, and just having less jobs that I can see that I need doing, and like getting Esteban to work on stuff and getting Jeremy to edit stuff. All that stuff has been helping me a lot because it's helping clear my plate and make me feel like I'm more in control. I forget what I was talking to somebody about ambition, because like ambition is something that people, like a lot of people will come up and say like, oh, like you're really ambitious, like good job, you did that thing, or NoClip's doing well, you're really ambitious and all this. And I think ambition is literally just it's like an anxiety reliever. Like ambition isn't like I'm trying to prove a point or you're trying to do it for everyone else. It's like you're doing all that stuff because you have to, because it's like an anxiety reliever or something. So that's kind of what I feel like about when I get really anxious and when I get a little bit depressed. It's often because I've just got too much shit on my plate. And I don't really have all that much shit on my plate, but I do, because my brain needs all this stuff to be happening all the time. I need to constantly be like making progress, I guess. So it's funny how like success essentially, or like what is perceived as success, like having work to do feeds into that. Like it's like a negative loop. So that was the biggest sort of learning lesson of the past year and a half, was how to be making all the good stuff that you always wanted to make, that makes you happy because you're proud of yourself to make the thing, while also not having it turn into this sort of like anti-cyclone of anxiety that you've suddenly created for yourself. So I feel like I'm definitely in a way better place than I was. I feel like once the winter passes and it starts to get a little bit sunny, I'll come up on the good side of that as well. And yeah, coming out of I shouldn't care all that much, but coming out of 2017 with like, you know, all the Patreon support that we had, we lost a bunch when all that Patreon stuff happened, gained a bunch more again. We were over the top of what we ever had again by the time the Horizon stuff had been out a week. That sort of stuff does relieve a little bit of anxiety as well. So it's good. I'm in a good spot, Tori. Thanks so much for the question. And aside from my throat now being gone from talking for the past 4 hours on video, in good health as well. So thanks for asking. All right, that's the Patron show for January 2017. Sorry there wasn't all that much extra stuff to talk about. The nature of taking my only vacation of the year, Christmas, for the past 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever, means that there's not all that much happening. And also the entire industry taking that off. So a lot of emails out about projects that we haven't heard back from yet, which fingers crossed we will. So thanks so much for watching this. Watch all the stuff on NoClip. If you're an early access patron, keep your eyes peeled. We'll have the Rafael Colantonio and Ricardo Bear interview, along with the Harvey Smith one, landing in the next couple of days. We'll also have all the behind the scenes stuff. We'll have that PC build as well. And a bunch more stuff. If you are going to MagFest, I may be going, I'm not sure yet. My birthday's on the 5th, I'm doing a thing, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to go to MagFest the day before, which was what I planned. But if you are going, if you're there on Thursday at 6:30, do you know what the name of the theater is? Do you know of any idea where it is? He's looking, we'll put it on the screen. He doesn't even, we'll put it on the screen. Okay. Tekken 7, Road to King of Iron Fist, which is a documentary that Esteban goddamn made. You can go watch the premiere of that. It's at MagFest, 6:30 on Thursday. If you're not going to MagFest, just go to Amazon. You can watch it there as well, right? Mm-hmm. How much is it?
It's free if you get Prime.
Free if you got Prime. What happens if you don't have Prime?
I don't think you can watch it.
You don't think you can watch it?
Yeah, it's a big problem for Europe, actually.
Oh yeah, good point. I'm sure somebody ripped it off Amazon. But don't watch it there. He's shrugging. He's shrugging. Check it out, and if you're out there, if I'm going, I'll post about it on Twitter. Try to meet up. If you're not, go to Esteban's premiere. I guess not really a premiere, is it? Have you shown it live publicly before?
No.
No? First live showing, premiere. Then go up and say hey to him as well while you're there. Yeah, and if I didn't answer your question, I'll answer in the comments. And enjoy the rest of your January. I'm trying to think about what games are coming out this year, like what I'm excited about.
It's still haven't played everything from last.
Yeah, I know. Last year, I've still got like I was trying to complete like Wolfenstein yesterday, and then I just went and played PUBG again for 2 hours. So we'll see how that goes. I know Spider-Man's coming out this year. That should be good. And a Red Dead's coming out this year. That should be good. It's probably gonna be a new PUBG map in a jungle or some shit. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. Enjoy the next couple of weeks playing games you didn't play last year, and we'll see you real soon on another video where I attempt to build a PC. I wonder if it works out. Spoilers, it does.